rehab, so injury rehabilitation. So how is virtual reality used in that, and why, basically?
Yeah. So I think as I was saying before, one of the big use cases we see is injuries like an ACL.
Mm,
So a player will be out for many months. They will have no exposure to a ball for, potentially 4 or 5 months post injury. Could
mm,
be longer, could be less, depending on, how they're recovering.
mm,
But basically, a lot of time spent outside of the game, a lot of time spent trying to develop that area from a physical point of view.
mm,
So what we do with virtual reality is we have different phases that we can expose a player to as part of their rehab. The first part is kind of the motor control element. And so this kind of leans itself more on the physical aspect.
mm,
But what we can do using virtual reality that we can't do in the real world at a very early stage is giving them exposure to a ball. So in an ACL injury, quite early on, we just can't get them kicking a ball because even the load of the ball just kicking can cause
mm,
kind of re-injury risk or little niggles.
mm,
So what we can do is kind of expose them to that in the first instance. But from a scientific point, we're actually developing other, we kind of developing the skill level of the player.
yeah.
So, areas such as external focus of attention, which is we know from a rehabilitation point is really important, but also this idea of combining physical and cognitive loading. So as the player progresses through the injury, we can expose them to activities that are not only causing them to move in the environment, but also cause it requires them to make decisions alongside it.
Yeah.
And we know through research that that's really important.
Mm,
We can't just rely on developing the player from a physical point. We need to kind of give them cognitive exposure,
mm,
which is really important because at the end of the day, football is not just a physical sport; it's a cognitive one, and so
mm,
we need to prepare them for that. And that's from the scientific side is the most important part is giving them that exposure to physical and cognitive content.
mm,
But what we find as well is really important is this psychological element.
yeah.
We sometimes forget that for a player, being out for such a long time is, you know, a very detrimental experience. In some players, they can never recover from it.
Mm,
So just giving them the opportunity to get out of the gym, get into an environment that they're comfortable with, that they enjoy, which at the end of the day is fun, it's engaging.
mm,
It can have a real big impact on their recovery. And we have many players that actually contact us or will speak to their physiotherapist or rehabilitation coach, and they're actually really satisfied with what they achieved through using our technology because
yeah.
it just made them, it kind of gave them the confidence, it gave them sharpness, it just gave them a little bit of a break from the monotony of
Mm,
rehabilitation training, which is
yeah.
really great to hear. So lots of benefits involved in that.
Yeah, I suppose it's kind of adds definitely linked to kind of the morale of the injured player, but like another milestone in their recovery, isn't it? Like they get to the point where, like you said, instead of being literally doing nothing for 6 months because they can't, they can now stick the headset on and they can do things that, maybe perform those sports specific actions sooner than they typically would. But also, it's what you said there as well was really interesting. So like that time would typically be, I don't want to call it dead time, but they can't really do anything apart from kind of wait and do what they can do at certain stages. But with that, they could have a very still injured leg, but they could be doing other things in terms of the cognitive skills. So they could technically come back as a better better player.